So in this video now, I'd like to present you with an idea that I'm hoping you're going to find quite interesting. You might even be aware of this one, you've maybe come across this one before. It's presented in a few different ways. I'm going to package this up and frame it as the circle of concern versus the circle of control. If you have come across a model like this similar in the past, it's possibly been called the locus of concern, locus of control. There's a few different ways of presenting this idea. So there's nothing new under the sun here, my friend. But what this idea really informs us of is how we're kind of showing up in life, whether we are making an impact in the world or whether we are being impacted by the world, all right? This is a question of personal boundaries, isn't it? Are we the influencer or are we the influenced? All right, we each get to decide, right? Many people go through life. Let's think about this A, B, C, D, E model. I know we've not really unpacked the D and the E just yet. We're coming onto that shortly. But many people operate out of this mindset, don't they? That activating events happen that make them feel a certain way. And this leaves people in quite a disempowered state of existence, doesn't it, cognitively? So this model allows us to identify the difference between reactive people, people who are reacting to life, people who are victims of circumstance, victims of the world, victims of society and all that sort of thing. And then we have those people who are proactively getting stuck in about life, taking responsibility for themselves, for the decisions, their choices, their thoughts, their actions, their behaviors, their consequences, their outcomes, their results. Right? Difference between living in an empowered way and a disempowered way. All right? So the circle of concern kind of looks like this. We focus on the world, we look at what the celebrities are doing, or we might not look at the celebrities, but whoever it is that we are idolizing in some way. And we do this all in our minds, don't we? We make a decision about who's getting it right, who's cool, who's hot, who's not. We sometimes look at the economy, and sometimes we allow the economy or family to determine where we live, where we work, what we do, what we buy, what we say yes to, what we say no to, what we commit and invest our time into, and what we don't. So the question is, what is influencing you? Are you driven by your own goals, by your own vision, by your own standards, by your own values, or are you influenced by absolutely everyone and everything else? Because some people are. I've known some people who have stayed in the same small town, small village for years, all right, who absolutely hate it. They're bored stiff, but they stay there because their family's there, because they've got a bit of a comfort zone going on. There are some people who watch the news, come up with all sorts of conspiracy theories, end up operating out of this place of fear because of the news of wars and terror that are going on. There's a couple that I know who live here in Dunfermline, and they've said, no, I will never, ever let my teenage daughters go to a music concert. Why? Because last year or the year before, there was a terror attack in a Ariana Grande concert down in Manchester, where, two individuals walked into a music concert and set off some bombs. Talk about overgeneralizing, all right? Talk about overprotectiveness, all right? What we're saying is that many people allow themselves and the decisions that they make to be influenced by the world, not by common sense or by rational thinking, all right? Some people will plan their lives around the weather. And if you do that in Scotland, you're screwed. You're right, you totally are, because it rains most of the time, all right? The best approach you can take to life here in Scotland is if you get a sunny day, go to the beach, run to the hills, quickly get naked and get as many rays of that golden sunshine as what you can, because it might be another 12 months before you see it again. All right, if you're watching this living in Scotland, you're going to be saying, amen, preach it, brother. All right, that's it. Some people base their decision-making and what they do and what they commit their life to upon what's trending. All right. How many young people do you know these days who will spend hours in front of their mobile phone trying to get that perfect selfie because they're hoping that perhaps they might trend? Why? It's looking for a little bit of validation, a little bit of social approval, acceptance, and if anyone gets a dislike, my goodness, it can be like the end of the world for some people, can't it? As bad as a war or terror. Now, there's one thing here in the UK I still haven't got my head around: skinny jeans, all right? Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I bought a couple of pairs of skinny jeans over the last few years. I figured, right, everyone else is wearing them. I'm going to try to remain cool and contemporary. But you know what? I hate skinny jeans. I just don't feel comfortable, all right? It's like wearing women's leggings, all right? That's what it is. I see all these guys walking around, teenage boys, they look all right. They've got their, these days, I think the latest trend is you've got to have your ankles showing and you've got to wear a ridiculous pair of spotty coloured socks, all right? And if you don't wear a crazy pair of spotty socks, underneath your skinny jeans that are rolled up halfway up your calves with a pair of pointy shoes, you're not cool. That's just not cool. My goodness, I invented cool. I am the original cool guy. You know what I'm saying, all right? People should be trending upon what I wear. That's what trends should be. I should be the trendsetter, all right? Maybe that's just my perception. Maybe I've just fallen into a place of cognitive bias as to what's cool or what's not, all right? What I'm saying is, what we do, what we buy, what we invest into, we are either influencing, we are trend setting, or we're following a trend. All right, where do trends start? Trends generally start with celebrities. I don't think David Beckham is quite as cool as what he used to be around about 10 years ago. But I can remember, I went through a season of life, David Beckham had a certain hairstyle. That might kind of evolve my hairstyle to be a bit like David Beckham. So I can remember once he went for this tint in his hair, and he had this blonde thing going across the top. But it was okay for him because he had quite fair hair. But I had a head of black hair. It looked like someone had cracked a Cadbury's cream egg on my head. It looked like I'd been going for a walk along the beach and the seagulls had been having a party in my bonds. All right, seriously. Just this big orange mark on the top of my head. I looked absolutely stupid because I tried to follow the celebrity trend. Now, obviously, these days I'm a bit more weathered in life, so I don't care what people think about me, right? I'm quite happy to crave my own way. But back then I did. All right, and if you think about it, people who operate out of the circle of concern will sometimes do things or not do things because they fear, they worry, they concern themselves about what people might think. So they want to be unique, they want to be individual, all that sort of thing, but yet they also want to fit in and kind of be the same as everyone else. And this kind of leads people into sometimes quite a place of inner cognitive conflict in life. All right, because we're all unique individuals, aren't we? And if we are more committed to the process of conforming than what we are, just kind of being our own unique selves, then we might not be being as authentic as what we want to be. And that is going to impact how liberated and how free we actually feel. Because here's the thing, you go online these days and many people will say freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, freedom of this, freedom of that, as they devote a large chunk of their life to fitting in on as many different levels as what they can. All right, freedom can be a bit of a fallacy in some people's thinking. But here's the thing, when we acknowledge this circle of control model, all right, we actually enter into this place of life where we're no longer governed or driven by what any factor external to us thinks, says, or does. All right? There's a whole Brexit thing going on right now when we've got a bunch of people saying Scotland needs to get independence from the UK and the UK wants independence from Europe and the economy is falling apart and we've got our own nation that is, hundreds of millions of pounds in deficit, but yet wants independence, and this seems ludicrous to me, but you know what? We sometimes just have to acknowledge those things that we control and those things that we just cannot control. Because the fact of the matter is, we cannot control the news, we can't control the economy, we can't control family, what other people say about us, what they think, what they assume, we can't control wars or terror, we can't control the weather, we can't control what's trending, we can't start a trend, we can't end a trend. I can't kill the skinny jeans fashion, can't do that. Threats, fashion, what people think of me. But I can control and determine where I live, where I work, what I do, what I buy, and who I be on a day-to-day basis. And I become empowered to make congruent decisions out of the circle of control, because what I can choose and what I have complete control over is what I believe, what I buy, my attitude towards people, towards skinny jeans, towards David Beckham's latest haircut. I'm in control of what I like and what I dislike. I'm in control of whether I build strong, healthy, robust boundaries in my life or whether I don't. I get to choose and decide whether I allow judgmental family members into my life or not. It's my choice. Why? Because I'm in control. Right? Quite an empowering way of looking at life. Places I visit. Okay, I'm a bit of a creature of habit sometimes. Sometimes if I'm going to go to Edinburgh with Karen for dinner, sometimes we go to either Vicenza, which is this Brazilian all-you-can-eat buffet. It's fantastic. If you ever go to Edinburgh, Vicenza on George Street. I'm not getting paid advertising here. It's genuinely an awesome restaurant. Or Wagamama's, and you most likely are never going to find me anywhere else. So if you're ever visiting Edinburgh on a Saturday or a Sunday, and you're thinking, my goodness, what's the likelihood of ever bumping into Kane Ramsay? Go to Vicenza or Wagamama's, and if we are in Edinburgh, we're bound to be there. All right, so that's it. We're in control of this. We like what we like. Where we live, what we do for work, what I read and what I write, and all this kind of stuff. Guess who's in control of what I teach in this course? Me, that's right. Some people will have been disappointed in this course because it wasn't a really rigid, boring academic death by PowerPoint, because that's what they were expecting, because that's what they've experienced in the past. But guess what? I get to determine what I do and what I say, and I can clap my hands right now and I can go and get my Bobby's helmet back on. In fact, I think I will. All right. I can get my Bobby's helmet back on and stick it on my head, and I can put this on for the rest of this video just to prove a crazy point, if there's even a point to make, that I'm in control of what I do. But yet many people don't acknowledge this, right? Which is why many people will come to you for CBT, feeling completely disempowered, genuinely believing and off the mindset that the decisions that they make, their actions are determined by all these factors beyond their own volition. Are you with me? And I'm back in this place of discomfort again, as this stupid hat is choking me once again. But I say these things to prove a point, right? To hopefully illustrate a point. And this is the difference between the circle of control and the circle of concern. The greater a person's circle of concern is, the more disempowered they're going to be living life. This is going to impact their self-esteem, their confidence, and their willingness just to make decisions and act. All right. But when a person has a larger circle of control, they're taking responsibility for that which they like, that which they dislike, that which they want, and that which they want less of, and therefore then act accordingly. So it's important that we understand this as cognitive behavioral therapists or aspiring cognitive behavioral therapists, because if a client comes to you and you're just sensing, my goodness, this person is really, really disempowered, is because they haven't yet taken full responsibility, or possibly any responsibility, for the fact that the decisions that they make are determined by them and them alone. Society, all of this stuff, especially if we're living in countries in the modern free world, right, there aren't actually any rules that we need to live our lives by. Plenty of laws, all right, I'm not saying go break any laws, all right, because you can end up in prison, but in terms of rules are made by man and they can be broken by man, and man can then go out and make new rules, all right? So why don't you go and make some new rules today and expand your circle of control? Because you're either going to be a rule maker or you're going to be a conformist, and we each get to choose. So just use this model, reflect upon it. I think there's a worksheet attached to this video, and there was a gentleman named, I think it was Rotter. It was Rotter's locus of control, I think it was. I think there might actually be a quiz in the additional materials section as well. So spend 5 to 10 minutes working through that, relate it to yourself, and then progress, my friend, and relate it to others. I'll see you again in the next clip. And I'm definitely not wearing this stupid hat again, because I am operating out of my circle of control.